just saying, just in case you think I didn't understand Spanish. Exodus chapter 17 tonight. Exodus 17. Thank you, Luis. And his ode to his wife and his two precious little ones. In the world, when you are ready to fight, not that I suggest any of you start fighting. Should you get into a fight, the fighting position is hands up, make a fist. In the kingdom of God, we're at war with our enemy, and God has a fighting position as well. That fighting position, as we're going to see, is hands raised towards heaven and face to God. This story tonight is a story of Israel defeating Amalek. And if you've been through Sunday school, children, maybe adults, this is a very familiar text. On top of the hill is Moses, Aaron, and Hur. The lesson that we're going to take away tonight is very simple. When you're tired and exhausted of fighting, the key to winning the battle will be the people at your side. Amen. You cannot live for God by yourself tonight. Amen. There are no solo people in God's kingdom. Amen. There's no one in this place tonight that on your very own you can live successfully for God, because Christianity is a group effort. Yes, amen. Don't ever try to live for God alone. It doesn't work. Exodus 17 tonight, verses 8 through 15. Exodus 17, reading verses 8 through 15 tonight. Now Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Choose us some men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I'll stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. So it was when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. When he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands became heavy. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side, the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. So Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Verse 14, Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this for a memorial in the book and recount it in the hearing of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven." Moses built an altar and called its name, "The Lord is my banner," or Jehovah Nissi, for he said, "Because the Lord has sworn, the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." I want to minister tonight on two friends on the hilltop. If you're going to live for God at any successful level, you're going to have people that stand beside you. Part of the problem in Christianity is you begin to gain a little bit of experience, a little bit of confidence. God blesses you in life, in the world, in things, in the natural, in the material realm. You begin to gain a lot of self-confidence. And on this particular day, in this scripture, Moses has this incredible revelation on the strategy of war. And I know the basics of this are simple tonight, yet so many people still want to do it alone. God isn't involved, the battle is lost. If you don't stay engaged, if I don't stay engaged, the battle is lost. And winning the battle is a group thing. Thank God for church friends. My message this evening is, if you don't get involved with the battle, you are most likely done. If you don't stay in the fight until you've won, it's just a matter of time before you're done. If you don't have a friend on your right side, that's my left side, isn't it? If you don't have a friend on your right side and a friend on your left side, then you might as well pack up your gear, because you're going to be in retreat mode. This day, God, the Lord our banner, teaches Moses that the weapons of the warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty in the pulling down of strongholds. If we're going to be successful tonight, you got to have some friends and friends to live for God. First of all, tonight I want to look at hands up to fight. 3 men went up on the top of the hill. Moses, we understand, is the front man. He's the point contact between God and the battle. Then, strangely enough, and it is peculiar and quite odd, as the fight goes on, Moses becomes exhausted. He's tired. Many people live for God for a period of time. They become weary. As a matter of fact, the Bible speaks about becoming weary of well-doing. They become weary of the battle, and they become exhausted, and they may not backslide. They may not decide, I'm not going to live for God, or I'm not going to put my energy there, but oftentimes they will place their energy into another arena in life. This would be career. If I can't find the call, the willing of God, the will of God, the purposes of God, the joy of God in serving in the church in faith, then there's a temptation to put your zeal and your passion into something else in life. Remember the fighting position, the same position we take up in prayer and worship. Moses has his hands up, hands lifted high to see, and so God's people can see. If you're ever going to do anything successful in the kingdom of God, you're going to have to learn tonight that you're going to have to rely solitarily this evening on Jesus Christ and God to provide our strength and God to provide our way, because it's not always going to be easy. And as Moses found out, people are watching him. His hands are lifted. There's the battle of the Amalekites in the valley, and there's great victory when his hands and his eyes are focused on the things of God. Literally, there's a spiritual truth here tonight. God's people will watch you. Moses lowers his hand, Joshua and the men fighting. You know the story, lose the edge over Amalek. When Moses' hands are up, he's in the fighting position. Joshua and the men of God, they retake the edge over Amalek. Our eyes, our focus, our attention has to be kingdom-oriented first. I know this is simple tonight, but so many people just begin to steer a little bit off course. You'll hear, if you've ever watched a boxing match, you'll constantly hear, and every boxer will tell you, keep your hands up. It's a natural tendency, especially after you become hit and tired, that your hands begin to drop and we become susceptible to the assault of the enemy. During the battle between Israel and Amalek, one out of the 3 men are in the fighting position, the other 2 are not. The man in the fighting position is Moses. The Bible speaks about this over and over again. In the world, when you're ready to fight, no one enters a fight with their hands at their side. But we're not in the world. We're done with violence. I heard a couple of guys talking a few weeks ago that, listen, if somebody talks to me like that again, I'm going to knock their block off. Listen, Christians don't fight anymore. Come on. I'm just saying. I believe in self-defense, but fighting is a sinner thing.
Yes, amen. Come on.
Oh, this is interesting.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah. You're no longer on the street. This is no longer survival of the fittest in regards to this realm. Fighting is a sinner thing. I'm going to remember this for the future. Amen. Now that we're saved, it's a different kind of fight. We understand that. It's the kingdom of God. When we're at war with the enemy, God will teach us a new fighting position. And when you find yourself exhausted, too tired to fight, you being the point of contact between God and the enemy, the turning point to the battle is who's on the hill with you. There are going to be times where you're going to need somebody to help you live for God. This is Moses. This is what Pastor Williams ministered on this morning. Here is God's man for the moment. He's tired. He's exhausted. Listen, spiritual battle is exhausting. And like I said, the natural tendency for many people now is not so much to quit, it's to divert their energy to something else in life. And the spiritual side begins to lose the attention that it desperately needs. Victory is oftentimes determined by who's on the top of the hill with you. Because no one wins alone, not in Christianity, not in life. There's an important lesson this evening about fighting. Without friends, your chance of conquering the enemy is slim to none. Yep. Without godly friends tonight, amen. Listen, when things happen to you in life, and life doesn't turn out the way you hoped it would, and world becomes spinning around you, your confidence is shattered, your goals, your dreams may be put aside for a period of time. It's those times that people kind of go into the caves of life. They kind of go into their isolation mode. Now I'm never going to risk again. I'm never going to trust again. I'm never going to believe him again. I'm never going to believe her again. I'm never going to trust my pastor again. And I'm just going to live for God on my own. I've lived for God for this long. Listen, the chances of conquering the enemy like that are slim to none. This is the reason why our prodigal sons and daughters are walking through those back doors tonight, is because they cannot live life, especially if they've known Christ, without God. I need godly people to help me. What I love about the story tonight is where God has Moses seated. He's on the top of the hill. Moses has the best seat in the house. He's overlooking the action, and sitting next to Moses is Aaron and Hur. God will always have you seated above the action to see what's happening in life. I need to be able to see what's going on in life. I need to know where I'm at. I need to have a bird's eye view of what's beneath me, what's beside me, what's behind me. And I need God to always have sight of my shortcomings. I need to place myself in a position where my closest friends can see me. I need to place my heart in a position where my pastor can see me. And I want to tell you tonight, that's not always easy. It's not always easy to place yourself in a right relationship with headship, because everything in life is pulling against authority. We are in an anti-authority generation. I need godly friends. There's not a single person on planet Earth that's not aware of at least some of their problems. There are a couple of areas I want to bring to attention, and then we're going to pray in just a few moments. God will always take you to the hilltop to face the battle. Who you take with you is important. When you're struggling, when marriage is challenged, when ministry's not working out the way you thought it would, when life is a significant challenge to you, who you take with you, who you surround yourself with in those critical times is absolutely important tonight. Many people run to what they used to be in life. They'll call an old friend, or they'll peel back in life and take a few steps back and become off of the hill. Who you take with you to the hilltop is important. because we all need an Aaron and Hur in the fight. I've never seen a believer win the battle without facing the enemy. Sometimes the enemy is facing our trials. Sometimes it's as simple as facing a failure, a setback, a marriage, a crisis, an addiction, a financial situation. The battle is never, ever won by turning your back on the enemy. That's called retreat tonight. This could be shortcomings in our spiritual life. The natural tendency for humanity is to put extra effort in the areas that they are good at and push aside the areas that they are challenged at. The difference in winning and losing tonight is oftentimes decided by the people that are closest to you in the battle. When I first got saved, I had a couple of people that made all the difference in the world in my Christian faith. I survived life because of them. I survived and made some good decisions because of them. And some of you have people that helped you get through, and some of them are not here today, sorry to say. To this day, I have good friends that help me live for God, see the bigger picture, and stay focused.
Yes, amen.
Because part of the problem tonight in winning the fight, and part of the challenge is we don't want anyone to see our problems. Especially men. Men don't want anyone to see their shortcomings, their flaws, the glaring inadequacies that they have in their life, and this is a significant challenge. And so people try to win the battle by being alone on the hilltop. The key to beating the enemy is the people that you have with you. In this church, there is no reason why not a single solitary young person, middle-aged, or older person cannot live successfully for God. Because there's people here that can help you. My point is we all need an Aaron and a Hur to win the fight. Someone that sees the same viewpoint that you see. Someone that's in the battle. Someone that's faced the addiction. Someone that's been in the broken marriage. Someone that has failed and never thought they would fail in that area. Someone who maybe has been gone for a while and has come back to Christ and are trying to figure out how to re-engage and where they fit in and how to adjust. You're going to need someone who has the same viewpoint, the same theology. Someone that can help lift your hands when you face the battle. It's one thing to talk about Moses becoming tired and Aaron and Hur lifting his hands. It's another thing about you and I tonight. Who do you have that'll lift your hands? If you can't name two right off the bat, then this message is for you. And if you can, maybe you can be to someone else. We all have personal Amaleks to face. God always deals with us to face our struggles head on. This has always been something that I've tried my hardest to look at. So God, what are my issues? Don't mention any, but obviously there are some issues. I have determined I am not going to give in to the enemy. I have determined I'm going to finish this race. I have decided that I'm going to run to the best of the ability that God has set before me, and He set a lot of things before all of us. I've determined in my heart that I'm not going to run from my problems. Because if I run, I don't have a chance. We know that this evening, yet in this place tonight, there are some of you, you have run to a secret place. Secret person, maybe. Maybe a secret sin. Run away in your heart, but not in your presence, maybe. Maybe your struggle tonight, your personal Amalek, is emotionally related. It's insecurity, it's jealousy, it's anger, it's bitterness, it's personal addictions. Maybe your Amalek this evening are the basic fundamentals of Christianity, or really in life. Maybe you are here tonight and you could not be punctual if your life depended upon it. Workmanship. On-the-job performance, social skills, dependability. Are you dependable? Do you have social skills, or any little conversation turns into a massive conflict? There are people that struggle with their Christian character. People question your testimony. And whatever your struggle may be, your personal Amalek, God will always remind you that you are in the battle with this thing. The enemy will always remind you of what your personal Amalek is, and the battle will never, ever go away. Have you found out tonight that our conscience is faithful? Our conscience is faithful. I've had to face my conscience on a few occasions, and it was not a very pleasant experience. Looking in the mirror and facing your own sin is not a pleasant experience. It's one thing to brush it underneath the carpet. It's another thing to look it dead on, because if you don't look it dead on, that thing will come back and it'll have a chance to get you again. And oftentimes the key to defeating Amalek is an Aaron and a Hur. The Aaron support on the hilltop. Friends make a difference in winning the battle, especially Christian friends that really care about you. I actually had some people, Pastor, I don't think there's anyone in this church that cares for me. That is absolutely untrue.
That's right.
It really is untrue.
Amen.
People might not always know what's going on. Someone may walk past you. I may have walked past you and not acknowledged maybe the hurt or the challenges going on, but you know what? People do really care. This congregation really does care. I know they do. They tell me they do. They do care. We need her support on the hilltop, because you can't win the battle alone. Because Christianity is a group effort. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10, speaking about the value of a friend, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion, but woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. There should be no excuse for lack of friendship. I can take that one step further. There should be no excuse for us not to be a friend to someone else.
Man, come on.
Who desperately needs someone that has the same viewpoint from the hilltop that you do. They have the same vision. They have the same faith foundation. They maybe serve in the same local assembly. And they need someone who can give the same perspective, but at the same time encourage and lift up. You can make it tonight. You can overcome the temptation. You can overcome the failure. There are Amaleks in marriage. We're not going to go there tonight, but there are many things. Most marriages, there's failures in money and relationship and disciplining kids and in-laws and the bedroom, all sorts of areas. And as was mentioned by Pastor Williams and also Brother Elise Koloka, there are the Amalek of backslidden children, which I already have this here written. And as Pastor Williams said again tonight, he said this morning, the natural tendency is to condemn ourselves if our adult children or teenagers aren't living for God. There was a time when one of our adult children was headed down the wrong path. This is a little bit maybe of instruction for some of you that have late teens, early 20-somethings. Is my wife began to recognize some of the character traits that began to change in one of my daughters. Her relationship with the things of God began to wane. Her language began to change. What I mean by that is not four-letter words or foul things, but the things that she found enjoyment in became a little bit different. How many know what I'm talking about? There's a change. My wife noticed this, let me know, and began to try to deal with her, work with her. She's very stubborn. She got this from her mother, not from me. That's not true, Karen. And anyone else who heard it. My wife, the last thing she is in the world is stubborn. So that just leaves me. Amen. And for a long period of time, she would not listen to us. And if you've ever, had a child who is not doing right or is going wrong, especially if it's the first time, it will drive you out of your mind. And it's a struggle. It was a personal Amalek. Jim Cymbala, we watched the video presentation. How many remember that? My house will be called a house of prayer. Told the story of his daughter backsliding. He made the statement, she is so far out there, she doesn't know the difference between up and down. And like any pastor, they have her name lifted up in every single prayer meeting. It's weighing on their marriage. There's sleepless nights, can't focus, there's frustration. And if you remember the story, he makes this statement as he's testifying, as he's ministering to a very large crowd. One day he decided to stop praying for her. He said, I'm not going to cry for her anymore. I'm not going to beg God for her anymore. And I know some of you might have been shocked. When I first heard that, I was a bit taken back. But what he was doing, he was just saying, you know what? I'm not going to allow this to affect my marriage. I'm not going to allow this to affect my wife. His wife now wants out of the ministry. You see, the devil has an angle for everyone tonight. The devil has a weapon, we understand it, with our DNA formed on it, a strategy to take us down. And he's looking at this whole picture and he's thinking, because my daughter is not living for God, I'm at the risk of losing my wife. which is my marriage, my ministry, my relationship with God, and I'm in a dry place. Accelerate to the end of the story. Someone approached him and said God's going to save his daughter. One morning he's getting ready to head into the church. His wife walks into the bedroom and says, who he hadn't seen in months, his daughter's downstairs and needs to talk to her. Walks into the kitchen, his daughter is crying and says, who has been praying for me? And went on to say how she loved Daddy. Today his daughter's saved, married, in full-time ministry with her husband, serving Jesus Christ. And I said all that to say because he made a very interesting discovery about parents that have backslidden children. They have a tendency to have a lot of dry spells in their Christian life. And I want to be very cautious and tender how I say this. There's this challenge that it's my fault, that I did something wrong. And you hear some scriptures, some messages, and sometimes, as Pastor Williams eloquently mentioned this morning, sometimes things can get moved around. But my point is, and what I really wanted to kind of just drop into some of your laps this evening, is if you see the dry spells becoming more and more frequently in your life, then whatever it may be that's challenging you, whatever it may be that's your personal Amalek, it may be rising up to a place where you can no longer see all the things that God has for you and wants to do for you, because we come out stronger and better when we have two friends on the hilltop. And I want to finish. In 1915, there was a phrase coined for the West Point Military Academy class. They called it the class the stars fell on.